Hello! Today's tutorial was inspired by Photoshop and pretty much any photo editing program that can do the thing where like the colors on like at least one color, I did it on the eyes, but at least one color is completely bright and all the other colors are completely muted. Don't mind the background, it was a little bit too much of an effort to make that entirely black and grey. Either way, yeah, I decided to do that on my face just to challenge myself. So I only used face paint for it, but alternatively you could also just use white foundation and black eyeshadow as shapers. That's probably even easier, but as I said, I wanted to challenge myself. And also I used a very good eyeshadow base to really make the colors on the eyes pop, but overall this is actually a surprisingly easy look to do. I didn't do my hair, by the way. You could also wear a wig or do, you know, like actually paint your entire hair white or grey or black, but you know, mine is orange. I didn't want to dull the color by painting it, so I just wore a scarf instead. That's also a possibility. So yeah, either way, it's a very easy look to do actually, but it's really fun to do, so let's get started. This time I'm actually starting out with a primer. This is the Catrice Prime and Fine Pore Refining Anti-Shine Base. I'm not sure if the primer actually does anything for the face paint, but I just prefer to have something between my face and the paint. The face paint I'm using is Kryolan Aqua Color. I actually am using the big pens this time instead of the palette I usually use. Nothing wrong with the shades from the palette, it's just that these ones are bigger and I'm using quite a lot of white eyeshadow. White face paint. So yeah, I decided to go for the big pens just because it's easier to grab. I just used a foundation brush for this. You could use a sponge, but I feel like I get better results personally with the brush. And then I settled it all with Peggy Sage Translucent Loose Powder. It's not actually very necessary to set face paint, but I just thought it made the entire thing look more smooth. Do of course use a translucent powder and not one with a color, because otherwise it's not going to be white anymore. And I did put quite some powder underneath my eyes just because I'm very paranoid about it creasing there. Then for shaping I actually started out with the brush as well and black face paint, and then realized I was never going to be able to blend it out with the brush. So I moved over to a sponge, and what I did is pretty much just put product on the sponge, dab it on, then dab the sponge on a towel and just pretty much keep dabbing the sponge with less and less product on my skin to make the product blend out. Like I said at the beginning, I really wanted to challenge myself, so that's why I did it this way. Truthfully, it'd probably be easier and a lot quicker actually to do it with black eyeshadow at this point. But yeah, I wanted to challenge myself, so I did it the hard way. It was pretty fun to do actually. And I also shaped around my forehead. I did keep the cheekbones the darkest, by the way, because I always want to be, I don't know, I like to have the most definition onto there. And I also did my nose. Be very careful, because obviously the nose is at the center of the face, so it's going to stand out, and if you make mistakes with black face paint on top of white face paint, it's going to be very difficult to fix it. Because yeah, you know, if you try to wash it off, you wash off the white as well, then you have to reapply the white. It won't be the same shade of white as the rest of your face. It's just frustrating, so just do whatever you can to prevent it. And then once everything was on there, I applied even more powder, just to make everything look a little bit more blended. I wasn't going for a completely smooth look, just really for a black and white photograph. Yep. And then for my eyebrows, I actually also used a face paint. Really, to me, the most important trick to this is just making sure that the face paint has the right consistency, so that it's not too thin, not too thick. If it's too thick, it'll be too dark, at least for me personally. And if it's too thin, it's going to drip and, you know, create stains, which is something I don't want. But other than that, I just filled in my eyebrows as I always do, just exactly the same way really. Including the part where I also always sort of blend the inner corners with my finger, just to make it look a little bit more smooth. And then for my eyes, I actually started out with regular concealer, the Catrice Camouflage cream in Ivory. And I just applied it everywhere where there's no face paint. And I did blend it in with the edges of the face paint just to make sure that there's no harsh lines there. And then I put powder on top of that just to make sure that nothing will crease later on and the eyeshadow will just stay in place perfectly. This look requires a surprising amount of powder, yep. And to make sure that the eyeshadows actually have something to grab onto, I also used the NYX Jumbo eye pencil in the shade Milk. Mostly on my eyelids and also a little bit in the crease. Yeah, this product is very creamy, but because of the powder underneath it, it won't be too sticky. But it will be sticky enough to make the eyeshadows pop. And that's what I want this time. The colors I used come from this palette, the 120 color palette by BH Cosmetics. Which contains a lot of colors, obviously. I decided to go for pink this time, just because I felt like it. But really, like any bright color will do good with this. I went for hot pink, and I just put that. I always call it hot pink, not instead of hot pink, simply because I once had a hair dye that had the exact same shade. Yep. Actually looked quite nice, but it faded pretty quickly. Anyway, back to the eyeshadow. I just applied it onto my entire eyelid, except for the inner corner, because in the inner corner I actually applied a slightly paler shade with shimmers in it, and then went back to the darker shade of pink to make sort of a point there. Not absolutely necessary, but I just thought it looked cool. And then for the crease, I actually started with sort of a wing. I wanted a sort of winged out look, but not too harsh. So I just carefully brushed the purple outwards and then just went to do my crease like usual. I tried to keep it sort of at one spot, like it's sort of blended, but I didn't want it to be too blended because I did want sort of a color blocking sort of look, I guess. And above the purple I put some orange, because at this point we already had two bright colors going on, so why not add a third one? And just blended it towards the wing as well. And then I actually also highlighted my eyebrow. For the highlighting it wasn't actually necessary, but with the eyeshadow I could sort of blend it together to again prevent harsh lines. And then underneath my eye I also applied the hot pink, just to tie it all together. I didn't want it to be too big underneath the eye, just a hint of color. And connected it to the inner corner as well. Then for eyeliner I also went for, I don't know, not very subtle eyeliner, but I didn't want the eyeliner to stand out too much. I just wanted the regular eyeliner not to have the eyeliner steal the show, because the colors are supposed to steal the show here. The eyeliner I used is actually face paint, because I was using the face paint anyway, so I figured I might as well just use it as an eyeliner too. And the same as with the eyebrows, just make sure it's not too wet so it won't drip. And then to define the eyes a little bit more, I also used a black pencil on the waterline. This is the Pure Color Kajal pencil by Estée Lauder. As usual, I'll just list everything I've used down below in the description box as well. And as always, you could add falsies if you want, but I just went for mascara. This is the Sexy Pulp mascara by Yves Rocher. And I just apply that on both the top and the bottom. Not even all that much, because again I didn't want to block out the colors. And then for lips I was actually on the fence for a while on whether or not to do pink, but I decided to go for black instead, because I don't know, I think it looks better when the focus is just completely on the eyes instead of also on the lips. So yeah, black lipstick can be sort of difficult to find. This one is by Essence, but Urban Decay also has one, and Makeup Revolution might have one as well, I'm not sure. Then I put powder on it, again back to the powder, just to make the lips matte, which just seemed to fit better with the look. And then here is the final result. It was really a challenge to do this, by the way. Like, I really had a lot of fun doing it, but I really got to get better at blending face paint. So yeah, but all in all, I had fun here. I hope you had fun watching this. Thank you very much for watching, and see you next time. Bye!